I'm Mike Benton. This is my family's sugar house in Thornton, New Hampshire. I'm a fifth-generation sugar maker. This farm across the street was purchased by my grandfather in 1900. Our sugar orchard is up 3 miles up the road in Millbrook Valley. We have, I'd say, probably about 3,000 taps in that area there, about 200 across the street on the farm property, and then we lease from the state. We bought a vacuum machine, and I've heard a lot of people do this. They buy a vacuum machine, and it sits in the sugar house for a few years before they actually put it to use. Have you heard the same thing? So they were leery of vacuum to begin with, and then we put vacuum on our main lines, and we'll never turn back. You know, my father would say, "Is the sap running today?" And then he hit the switch. He said, "It is now." My father moved the sugar house to this property. It was up on that road it spoke about in Millbrook Valley, but the road would get really muddy in the springtime and you couldn't get people up to buy product. So he put the sugar house down here in 1983. So right around then, we started doing ski touring on our family farm here. We have 200 acres here. And we were trying to find different ways to utilize the property. There used to be a cattle farm and all that stuff had kind of gone away. So we started a ski touring center, and with the ski touring center, we had lunch we served as such, but when it came to sugaring season, we did breakfast. So that's what started it. And I don't know, it's got to be, we've been constantly cooking breakfast here for, I'm thinking, close to 30 years now. This is our product name, Fen Sugar Shack. It was when my grandfather had it, it was Benton and Sons. And then him and my father, and he had 2 brothers, so they had a good crew of people, and they all had kids. So I remember we would gather 1,500 taps on buckets back then, and it would be all the grandkids, you know. And if you invited, like I would invite friends over for the weekend, and part of the weekend thing was to go gather sap. So I'd have friends come over, you know, that weekend anyway, and then they would gather sap, and then you usually wait to come back to my house till summertime.
You talked about the years of you taking over from your father about 35, 40 years ago.
Yep. There was one day I was standing next to the evaporator and trying to figure out how he was doing all that. He showed me the basics of it when I was 17 years old, and then he walked out. So I was there to learn on my own how to run the thing, and I basically took over from that point. I ran it. When I first took over, it was a wood-fired evaporator. It was a 5x14. We would go through a lot of wood, and then probably after about 10 years of oiling on that, we had the opportunity to get a lease from the state, which was a lot of taps, and we really didn't know how we would process it, thinking about all the wood it would take to boil that much sap. And then we'd heard about RO, and that kind of opened things right up for us, because then we could take and make 2,000 gallons of syrup with that old wood-fired evaporator. He was using an RO with, 30 quart of wood, not 300. So we went from that, did that for years. The RO that we had to begin with was way too small, so we'd start processing sap 5 in the afternoon and finally fire up the evaporator at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was a long wait to get the amount of concentrate we needed to keep that rig going. And then we moved into a bigger RO machine, and years went by. We found that we could lease more property and put in more taps. So we went to a open house up in St. Albans. And we went there not knowing, what it would cost to be able to process 10,000 taps. That's the number we were looking at. So we went to all the different places up there to find out, what's this going to cost us? We need to go get a loan. How do we go about this? We went to all the places, and we went to CDL, and you go to CDL's open house, and you go and you can see a thing that says this many taps, this machine, this RO. It was so helpful to get that information. And you could go right in and sit down with somebody that day, and they could give you a price that you could go in the direction you wanted to go to try to figure out how you're going to move ahead. they provided us, because we had no idea. We had no idea what we were looking at to do what we've done, and that was very helpful, because I was a sugar maker for years and years, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and if you have a company that can answer those questions and help you lead you in the right direction, it was very helpful. I was really impressed with the way that CDL helped us find the direction we needed to go in.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe and press the notification icon to get updates on new product videos.